Hi, I'm Samir Jain. So, continuing on my postings on Brexit, I'm going to explore the Swiss versus Brexit model. Is Brexit a copy of the Swiss? That's the question uppermost in people's mind. After all, they are both competitive exporters, and Switzerland too did not join the EU, and it did pretty well, competing by exporting to outsiders. I've learned that Switzerland has over 120 agreements for partial access to the single union, has given them the freedom to negotiate free trade bilateral agreements, and that's something that Trump's been talking about too. The EU-Swiss institutional construct is a good one to look at too, and the idea being, and this is something resonating in the UK, is to draw broad free trade sector by sector agreements and to diverge from an overall agreement. It's a trade-off about how much national sovereignty to pay to gain access to the EU market. So cherry picking seems to work for the folks here. And switching gears, if we go beyond economics, the European Court of Justice, very contentious, has failed in many ways. So one needs an independent court of justice for arbitration, where the ECJ has a very limited role. Then there is the issue of customs union. How are borders to be handled? Can one say that only goods are subject to control on borders? What about trade corridors? So here they now have an electronic monitoring system, which is something good to copy, I guess. The other issue is free movement of persons, something to be considered. So there are many issues, but my take is that it is best to avoid an all or nothing approach. So people here say that handling land borders and EU procedures, goods and persons movement is something that they've done well already in Switzerland. And being a landlocked country, the economy here is interconnected. So folks here want as they do in Ireland, a non-noticeable, invisible border that can hopefully be monitored electronically. However, you are dependent on the partner across the border to implement it. So cooperation is vital. There seem to be many advantages of not being a EU member, and you don't have to agree with it necessarily, but it does bring in legal certainty, agreement in selective sectors too, but of course not in all sectors. It is at the end of the day all about legislation and politics. You cannot be 100% sovereign in this day and age. So here, economic and foreign policy and monetary policy is free. Taxation, finance, social, foreign policy is very autonomous. And for them, negotiating separately with China and India seems to be working. So people are of the view that an a la carte and not necessarily a full menu is nicer. Naturally, there are many disadvantages too though. You don't have decision-making ability, but they've definitely got a huge role in decision shaping, and the point is subtle. They of course do not have full participation in all sectors in the EU, as Switzerland is not an EU member. So they have some unsatisfied market demand and some aspect of export is restricted. But the sentiment here seems to be to not question fundamental EU principles, but rather to focus on flexibility on implementing EU principles, to be content in having a role in good decision shaping, not necessarily decision making. I thought this might be a good model to learn from for the UK. Perhaps I'll keep you posted. Thank you for listening in.